Okay, so I'm gonna do another voiceover video just like last week, but I did hear your comments and your feedback, and we'll kind of be doing a mix of both. I've got a mic. It's working pretty good in the shop, so in the future the videos will have a bit of me talking in the shop with the piece like before, and then some of this stuff. So, because you guys like this, but also let me know that you miss the old style as well, and we'll carry on with that. So we've got a little humidor here for a customer of mine, and it's in for a restoration, not a complete refinish because it's a beautifully painted little piece, but we've got some loose joints and it's a bit dirty, and the paint is not in the best condition. We do have some water damage and such on the finish, so we'll just be going over the whole thing, getting all the joints tight, cleaning everything, touching up painted areas, and making this little guy shine again. So I'm just going to use some Murphy's oil soap and give it a clean. And we'll be stripping two sections of this piece. So the shelf on the bottom and the top were kind of beyond saving the finish. It did have some water damage as well as some large scratches, and there was a lot of finish missing. So this is shellac, usually comes off like caramel, real sticky and goopy. Different finishes come off differently with the same stripper. So lots of times I can tell what a finish is by how it reacts to the stripper. So yeah, this is the top, pretty damaged. If you notice past all of the water damage and rings and chips, this piece has a sunburst pattern, which you can see a little bit better when I put the stripper on. That means that the edges were tinted a little darker and the middle section brightens up to a lighter color. So we will be replicating that in the finish when we put the new finish back on. So just gonna do the top and the shelf. Easiest thing to do, but we'll keep our mess away from the rest of it. And you see me kind of quickly swiping the shellac off of the edge. If you move slowly, it's just gonna droop over the edge and then probably get on the side of the cabinet. But if you go really quickly, you can kind of scoop it cleanly right off the edge there. So that's why you see me going a little fast. And then I'll just use some steel wool and push it into the groove. Just to be really careful about getting anything on the rest of the cabinet. So most finishes take at least 2 to 3 passes to get everything off. And I like to have my pieces really cleanly stripped before I move on to any type of sanding, because that saves on sandpaper, which is not cheap these days. And then giving it a methyl hydrate or denatured alcohol rinse afterwards will get rid of the rest. And I'm just gonna put my rag along the side while I'm using a brush, just so that any splatters are caught and not splattered onto the cabinet finish. So there are 4 nails on the top here and they popped, so I'll just punch those back down. Okay, so you're going to see me start with the palm sander here, just going in with a 220, and I'm not sanding out all of the defects on this piece. We're going to be keeping a lot of the character of the piece. So there's some scratches, there's some nail holes, there's a few little dents and things. I'm just going over the whole thing once so we get a nice even stain job, but I'm not working the surface down to fresh wood or anything like that. So there's still a lot of the old character left because it needs to match the rest of the piece. And then of course always hand sanding afterwards. Okay, so I'm just going to use a splitter clamp, and that's going to get off or get the joints apart far enough that I can re-glue the shelf in. I'm also gluing the joints up at the top there. I took off some of the copper in the cabinet because I was worried there was something underneath there connecting the sides to the top and bottom. So I just took that off as a precaution so that I wouldn't pull them apart, but there wasn't. So I'll just put that back on afterwards. But just getting some carpenter's glue in there and re-gluing the joints. So there's an old kind of dirty shellac finish on this stuff. I'm using a little bit of alcohol on a little rag or whatever I've got in my hand there, and I'm just scrubbing off a layer of the old shellac, which is kind of darkened and a little dirty, so you can kind of see the difference there. I just want to brighten up those really pretty colors. And as well, if you see the area I haven't worked on, this shellac has crazed, which is the cracking that you see there. So that kind of flattens that out and helps the finish to smooth out a bit. You can see the difference there of the brightness. The little yellow and blue accents, they're so pretty. So the knob is loose, but it's attached underneath the copper. So I'm just going to pop that off and tighten it up. Okay, so the entire cabinet I'm going to be giving a very gentle sand to. That's going to further flatten the crazed shellac and prepare the surface for a bit of color work and the new finish. And I'm going to go in with Gunstock Walnut from Goudy, my crusty old jar. And I'm going to try to keep the stain to just where it's supposed to be. It's okay if a little gets, and I think it does, get onto this painted area, because you can just wipe it off with a bit of paint thinner. Okay, so going over the rest of the piece just really gently with the same sandpaper. I was just picking off a little piece of white paint there. It always seems like a splatter of white paint gets on furniture from somewhere, painting your house, I guess. Here you can see the water damage that's kind of flaked off the old finish. And I'm just going to be sanding those areas really lightly because we're going to go in with our stain as well and just recolor all those areas. I'm just smoothing out the cracked finish, which you can see is kind of all over the piece. You know, it would have been a good candidate for refinishing, but I don't want to lose all the painted areas, even though they need a lot of work as well. Just kind of doing the minimum here. And so I'm just using some alcohol to wipe that as well. Try to get some of the old shellac off, give it a sand, and it's ready for some color work. So the door in particular, I'm going to be spraying with a coat of shellac just to seal it up. I don't want anything that I'm doing afterwards to affect any of this painted work. It's actually in really great shape. There's some color missing, even though we stained over on the door frame, the dark door frame, but I'm going to leave that. It's part of the piece. It's been cleaned, it's been touched up as much as I want to, and I'm just going to seal that up. So we have to stain the top and the shelf, and then we'll go over the rest of the prepped finished areas with the same stain. So if you're wondering, can you actually stain over old finishes? Yeah, you sure can. Just make sure it's dry before you put another finish over top. Especially an older finish like this that's pretty much gone in the first place. It's like using a scratch remover almost on the old finish. So I'm not being too thorough with the stain. I'm happy with a little bit of age and unevenness on the legs and the older parts. So the painted, especially the bottom part of the little green legs, were in quite bad shape with a lot of paint missing. So I'm just going to mix up a color that is as close as possible to the color that is there. And it's going to look really too clean when I put it on and too light. But just bear with me while we age it up. So this is just an acrylic paint that I tinted. And we're going to go in with an amber shellac and do a really messy shellac job to, for one, bring that color a little bit more yellow. That I'm matching these colors to the door panel. And then this, trying just to do touch-ups on these areas. There was some pretty big losses as well on the yellow, but I'm just trying to kind of not only work where I need to, not really looking for perfection on this piece. I'm looking for everything to just kind of meld together and for the damage to fade into the background and for the piece to just stand out instead of all the damage. So if you notice, the old paint work is kind of sloppy on the edges. They weren't very accurate with where they blobbed the color, and that's kind of a style. So I'm just trying to kind of replicate that. So I'm just sealing up these painted areas with some more amber shellac, because we pretty much removed all the shellac when we were doing the cleaning, and that looks pretty good. Same with this, that'll just yellow up those blue stripes and bring them a little closer to the door. So I'm going to be putting a catalyzed lacquer over top of the whole thing. The shellac is perfect underneath this finish, but the lacquer is a great finish for this piece. It's going to protect everything nicely. And it's lovely to be spraying in the booth, I'll tell you that much. Just a quick once over with 320, and we're going to go in with some tint. So I'm going to use a dark Van Dyke Brown by Mohawk, and we're going to tint up the edges and fade it into the center to give that sunburst look back to the piece. This piece was sitting in my client's grandfather's home, and they remember it being part of their childhood growing up, part of the house. And I always like to work on things that are loved by people, just like I was saying last week. So this little item has been with this family for a long time, and it's nice to get it all shined up again because it's pretty unique. I don't see a lot of humidors through the shop, but they're always really interesting to work on. And there it is, looking nicely put together again. All the damage on the top quietened down, but you can still see, if you look, there's some character, and especially on the door front, we did leave a lot of just, paint loss and whatever it was. But in the grand scheme of things, everything looks put together. Nothing is standing out and interrupting you enjoying the look of this piece and the design. The top has little dents and things that are still left in it, but it looks really good. So yeah, back where we were, kind of lost in the mess of chips and scratches. It's looking really, really, really sad, and can't quite enjoy the piece. You just feel a little worried for it when you look at it in this state. But now you can really enjoy the creator's vision and the artwork. Those bright colors are shining through, and the wood is looking refreshed. So I hope you enjoyed another little voiceover video, just a short one here. And we'll be back in the shop next week with a video a little more like the old ones, but a little bit like this one as well. So stay tuned, and thanks so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to support this channel, you can buy me a coffee. The link is in the description below this video. And as always, everyone, I love you, and I hope you have a great day. Cheers!